I take that back. I actually think it's pretty likely that these giant incumbent powers will retain their power in a meaningful capacity. It actually seems pretty unlikely that they will be completely supplanted by some new upstart coming from nowhere. Mm-hmm. Particularly because the user experience of social media has to change in order for people to get excited about a new platform. No one's going to switch from Twitter to decentralized Twitter by the fact of its decentralization. But people will switch from Twitter to Snapchat because it's a totally different experience. Mm-hmm. People will switch from YouTube to TikTok because it's a totally different experience. People will switch from Twitter to Reddit because it's a totally different experience. So unless whatever decentralized social media comes out of the crypto world provides a totally different experience, Twitter will keep being Twitter and Facebook will keep being Facebook, just by virtue of this is what people are accustomed to using for that experience. So let me see if I can summarize real quick. I think Jack's heart's in the right place. I think Twitter and incumbent social media are going to stay powerful in some form. And I still think there's a ton of room for innovation and surprises. Yeah. The use case has to be different if some small platform is going to play on the same playing field as the giant incumbents. And I expect some will. There's just so much to do with the crypto tech stack, not only already, but in the future, that I expect that the Snapchats and TikToks and new social media services of the future will be crypto-based. But Twitter seems kind of likely to stay Twitter just because it's Twitter. And that's
interesting. Yeah. I never thought about this. Because when we talk about social media in the decentralized world, often people are talking about doing decentralized versions of the same thing, right? Not quite doing completely new things from scratch, which I would have to agree with you right now that that's more plausible. And I didn't mean to laugh at you contradicting yourself. I was laughing because it's hard to, you have to have like these nuanced thoughts that you want to stick to trying to find the truth. And of course, at some points you just find things that seem to directly contradict each other, right? Such as this. I just misspoke. Well, one thing that it's funny to me about Jack is that he seems to be this very hardcore Bitcoin maximalist. He doesn't really seem to have thought much about the Ethereum ecosystem, which, if you would ask me, it seems that's way further in his alley. Why would that be? Do you have any theories?
Yeah, I'm seeing kind of a psychosocial division in the crypto industry along similar lines as political divisions in the general public. You have the sort of conservative, almost militaristic, traditionalist sort of crowd that's very attracted to Bitcoin and only Bitcoin. And then you have the creative, diversity-focused, flexibility-focused. Did I just hit the mic? Are we cool?
No problem.
All right. And then we have the diversity-focused, creativity-focused, inclusion-focused people surrounding Ethereum. Like the sort of psychological profiles of these two halves of the crypto industry very much mirror the two halves of the political spectrum in particularly America, I guess you could say. And it comes down to what Robin Hanson calls the elephant in the brain, that we have these sort of orientations, these emotional orientations that are, they're kind of our psychological architecture. Did you ever make one of those like marshmallows and toothpicks, like structures in school, you know, like you have to build a structure that can like stand up and withstand itself. Well, human beings put up with a lot of shit. They have to deal with a lot of shit in their lives. And we have to figure out, how are we going to hold it all and still be able to function? How do we hold our emotional baggage? And there are the ways we do that fall into patterns. And one of the major ones is something like this division that we're seeing both in politics and in crypto. So it just so happens that Jack may have a leaning somewhat toward the Bitcoiner side of this psychological architecture thing. I'm just speculating here, but it seems reasonable to extend Bitcoin culture up to him. I don't know his personal situation, of course. But this is something I emphasize this because it's not necessarily a character flaw or moral failing on his part. It's just kind of how, if I'm right about this speculation about his psychological architecture, it's just how he deals with being a human, and this is how his dealing with being a human intersects with the crypto world and all the choices and options that it provides. So I'm not like mad at him for that. I do think Ethereum would be far better suited to Twitter's future than something Bitcoin based. And that's one of the reasons I'm building Idea Market and making it very easy for Twitter to just plug into if they so choose, and get the income stream and the market-based moderation for that. Mm-hmm. But I still have a lot of optimism that he's a brilliant guy and knows a good opportunity when he sees one. And I think we're still very, very early in this game. And I look forward to seeing how things unfold.
I think that my favorite thing that people have built on top of Twitter wasn't even built by Twitter. It was the Mask network. The fact that you can have these plugins that interact with your crypto wallets directly on Twitter, and they look so beautiful and they're so nice and everything. And they're built on Ethereum. And because of the way the Twitter corporation tends to act, there's been fairly, a great number of accusations of them censoring right-wing people, right? Or at the very least, that's the type of people that tends to complain that Twitter is censoring them or shadow banning them or whatever. So yeah, he would look more like on the Ethereum side of things, which weirdly he isn't. And I think they do see the value in the Mask network and everything used there, which just makes the whole contradiction a bigger pile of mysteries. Did they say anything about how this decentralized Twitter is going to look like? Blue Sky, is it called?
It's called Blue Sky, and I don't know very much about the details of it. I have not heard anything incredibly specific, and that could be because I'm not paying attention, and it could be because it's a big, centralized corporation black project that they give you super vague information about, and that's it. So if anyone out there knows details about what Blue Sky is going to be like, please let me know, because I'm not clued in on that.
It'd be great to know how they're planning this, and the angle that you bring to the table, the angle of let's try and do something new that's pro crypto instead of just doing the same thing with crypto. Those seem like something that could have originated in that table as well, right? They wouldn't just want to build their own decentralized replacement and tell everyone to hop on that instead. Although if he wanted to, he would be able to. He has more than enough money right now. I reckon that he'd be more than happy to step down and just be a normal person for once. He doesn't look like that type.
If I understand correctly, he has to deal with a pretty unprecedented set of incentive forces, given that he is the CEO of this publicly traded company that is deeply entrenched in traditional finance, with Twitter's market cap on NASDAQ and all that. And to transition that to some kind of token-based governance or functioning or something like that, it just seems like an absolute monster of an undertaking. Not only technically, but because of all the people he has contracts and fiduciary responsibilities to. Technically, the technical aspects of decentralizing Twitter seems like only half the battle. And because of that, a possible outcome may be that it'll take so long that it'll be unrecognizable by the time it's done. So I don't know, but whatever they do, Idea Market will be ready for it, because we're built to be a hub for social media platforms to plug into for that.
And if he does, I mean, if we think about the most entertaining outcome being the most likely, it'd be pretty entertaining to him just to see him saying, you know what, we built the decentralized version. You can go and use that. We're turning this into a DAO. I'm stepping down. I would just love to see something like that. I don't think it's too likely to happen, but
yeah, I think something like that would be really cool, especially if he's able to do it without creating too much actual harm. Man, honestly, he's operating in a realm of incentives and responsibilities that I don't know very much about. So in theory, yeah, I'd love for Twitter to be as open and decentralized and transparent and blockchainified as in theory it could be. It's a hard problem, man. It's a really hard problem.
Incentives and motivations are also very interesting in the decentralized world, because you see, of course, when we're talking about Jack, we're talking about the billions of dollars invested in Twitter and the worth and all the people that whose livelihood depends on that. So he's got to be careful, right? You cannot just burn it all to the ground from one day to the other. But in the decentralized world, we very much, this was my main takeaway with Gitcoin's Kevin Owocki. He did mention that if he would be able to go 10 years back in time, 5 years back in time, he would just try to drive across the point that we wasted a lot of time in crypto trying to turn people and decentralized systems into incentive machines. That what motivates a person is more profound and comes from a lot of different places that just here have a bunch of tokens. Particularly when we have to be real about this, particularly when you're in certain nations that are more developed and everything. I do get the feeling that and you see that with bounty hunters, right? There's the uncomfortable truth that most people that do bounties are often in developing nations where there's more than worth their time pursuing these tasks for a little bit of a couple of dollars, just in able to earn more money doing that they would do with a regular job in their nation. And we have to accept that truth. But I digress. I think there's very interesting possibilities for blockchains and decentralized systems to enable systems that are not necessarily capitalistic in nature.